Hello again, everybody. Horseman Don Stevens here on the Horseman Don YouTube channel, joined by my good friend Michael Chamberlain over in Lafayette, Louisiana. Michael, how you doing?
Doing good, Don. Doing good. A little different feeling for this first Saturday in May this year, as opposed to past years, because normally tomorrow we'd be watching some roses get handed out.
Yeah, no kidding. First time in your or my lifetime, and a lot of people's lifetimes, that this has ever happened. So it'll definitely be historic, and it'll put a new bend on the Kentucky Derby when it comes around on September the 5th. These horses are going to be a lot older, and 3-year-olds change a lot over the summer. So this is really going to be a different look come September, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to really alter the prospect of the race because, now, as you said, younger 3-year-olds, they tend to act a little differently than they do as they mature over the summer. So come September, I think we're going to get a really honest Derby in September. It's really going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hate to wait 4 months for it, but I think it's still going to be a really good race. And whether there are fans allowed there or not, and Churchill Downs is going to be opening up for spectatorless racing during the month of May in a couple of weeks. But whether there are fans there on September the 5th or not, it's going to be the Kentucky Derby, and it's going to be terrific.
Yeah, it will. It's going to be interesting. What if they run the Belmont before the Kentucky Derby? Talk about an upside-down world, huh?
But, back in the day, the races weren't set in these specific time frames. That when Gallant Fox won the Triple Crown in 1930, he won the Preakness 4 days before he won the Derby. Now, think about that. He ran the Preakness 4 days before he ran the Derby, and he had to get from Baltimore to Louisville in the space of 4 days. So,
I'm sure a train car too, So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he could fly in. It wasn't like an hour flight. He had to take the train, and that's a couple of days trip right there. And then you get him off the train and get it. That shows you how good that horse was, and he'll be in that fantasy derby that they're running on NBC tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll touch on that too after we get done with our main subject here. The reason we're doing the video is to talk about what would have been a big Kentucky Derby prep, and now it's 2 races, and it's prepping 4 months in advance. So this is really upside down and weird. If you're a trainer, I don't know what you do at the beginning of the year. You were trying to peak your horse on the first Saturday in May. Now, if you're going to win the Roses, you got to peak them in September, but you got these big prep races. Now, we're going to look at the Arkansas Derbies. That sounds funny.
Yes.
Or Saturday. And we're also going to look at the Oaklawn Handicap. So we're going to give you our picks and our analysis of that. But it's kind of strange, isn't it? You're running these races and you're not going to go to the Roses for 4 months or so, whatever it is. So it really puts a twist on things. But it's a tremendous card tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Great racing at Oaklawn. It's certainly something to look forward to tomorrow. And I think it's definitely going to be a big day of racing. And these 3 races that we're looking at, there are prohibitive favorites in each, horses that everyone thinks they should win. And I kind of think that we're going to go a little bit off course on a couple of these horses, but it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking very forward to watching the Arkansas Derbies tomorrow. And, it's good to get some good racing going.
Yeah, and another thing with some of the races maybe not even taking place on the Kentucky Derby Trail, they are awarding full points for both races, aren't they? So that's a good thing.
Yes, and that's very important as well, because those points are what get these horses into that Kentucky Derby the first Saturday in September.
Yeah, that sounds so strange. That'll be 4 days after my birthday and just a few weeks after yours, right?
It's my 5th wedding anniversary.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I forgot. September 5th. Wow. Well, congratulations in advance.
Thank
Although,
you.
the wife going to see you much that day? I don't know.
I don't know how it's going to work, Don. We had a whole thing planned. I can tell you, we were going to do something really nice for that day, but maybe I have to just change some plans and just kind of wing it.
That was one of 2 days you said you mark off every year, Kentucky, and of course the Green Jacket Day, right? The Masters.
That's right. Masters Sunday and Derby Day are the 2 days. You just say, sorry, can't be bothered with it.
Well, they've got a tremendous card at Oaklawn tomorrow. We're going to look at races 11, 12, and 13. The Derbies are 11 and 13, and splitting those is a tremendous Oaklawn Handicap, which has been a great race over the years. Some tremendous horses have won that race. So let's start right off with the 11th, Michael. These Arkansas Derbies at 1 mile and an eighth. They have $500,000 purse in each since they were split. Kentucky Derby points, and we'll begin right off with the 11th race, which does have 11 drawn in, but there is a scratch, correct? Give us up to date on that.
There are actually two scratches that have been announced. Number 6, Shooters Shoot, and number 7, Wrecking Crew are both out of the 11th race tomorrow at Oaklawn Park. So it's going to be a field of 9 going a mile and an eighth in the first edition of the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby.
Okay. All right, well, let's start off with our analysis. We have a heavy favorite in here. I'll just give you a note. The one-horse Charlatan in here, who's undefeated, 2 starts, never challenged at Santa Anita, kind of looks like Justify with the lack of racing.
Yes, he does.
I mean, I don't know if he's another Justify, but you know what I'm saying. One thing about Bob Baffert, everybody thinks he ships in and wins everything. And, you know, he's done well, but he's only had 2 Arkansas Derby wins recently in 2012 with Bodemeister, in 2015 with American Pharoah. Todd Pletcher also has one in here. Governor Morris, he's actually won 3 Arkansas Derbies of the last 7, and he's won 4 in the 2000s. So Pletcher's actually had, of course, he probably ran there a little bit more than Bob Baffert did in the earlier 2000s, but just wanted to throw that note in. He is the even money favorite. Do you think you're going to get even money on him? I know he's not your pick.
I doubt it. I doubt it, Sammy. I mean, you know, you look at the horse, and really, it's tough to pick against him. Of course, I'm going to, because I don't really think I'm going to be attracted to getting 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 or whatever he's going to be in this race. And I think there are a couple of potential red flags on this colt. You know, he's by Speightstown, very good sprinter, great. I won a Breeders' Cup Sprint at Lone Star Park in 2004. Out of a Quiet American mare, of course, Quiet American with Real Quiet, who was a Derby winner 22 years ago. But again, you know, these last 2 races, yes, all kinds of speed, should just go right out to the front from that inside post position. But let's say Charlatan doesn't get the best break tomorrow. If he doesn't start well, then he gets trapped down there on the rail and may not get any racing room until it's too late. So I think there are a couple of things that, you know, may not justify, no pun intended, taking the Bob Baffert trainee here at the 2 to 5 or 3 to 5 that you're going to get. I did put the horse second because I just think he's that good, but I just can't put him on top given the expected price and given the fact that there's just a couple of things there that might send up a red flag and say, maybe we pick him, go for him the next time.
Yeah, you may be right on that. One thing, and we'll talk about my analysis here in a second, but one thing you're right, if he doesn't break well, gets behind horses in a big field, not a 4 or 5 horse field like he's used to, and gets dirt in his face that attracts, those could be big negatives. However, I believe enough in Bob Baffert that I can't imagine this horse hasn't trained in company with 1 or 2 other horses, and he's probably brought them from behind those horses to get dirt kicked in his face. I'm sure he's given him all that experience, but again, until you do it in a real race, you haven't done it. So go ahead and give us your picks there, 1 through 4.
I'm going to start off with my top choice, which is number 4, Governor Morris for Todd Pletcher, who you mentioned, by Constitution out of an Unbridled Song mare. 2 wins in 4 starts, including the Maiden Breaker at Saratoga last September and the victory at Tampa Bay in February, which led this one, was the betting favorite in the first 3 of those 4 starts, was not the favorite in the Florida Derby last time out, which is the only time he ran off the board, finishing 4th in that race. But again, had a 5-wide trip, didn't really get the best run of the race in that one. And that Florida Derby was an oddly run race anyway. So I'm tending to throw that race out. I think Governor Morris, he's 9-2 on the morning line. I think you probably get close to that, or 4-1, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I'm going to put that one on top, number 4, Governor Morris.
Okay, and your second pick you said was Charlatan, right?
Charlatan is my second pick for Bob Baffert, who's hitting at 55% for the current Arkansas Oaklawn meet, 6 for 11. Yeah, so that's pretty strong right there. And the horse is coming back off of a layoff, that last race at Santa Anita. And when coming back from 45 to 90 days away, Baffert's hitting at 30%, which is listed in your Brisnet past performances. So Charlatan is the second pick. My third pick is going to be number 11, Basin, by Liam's Map out of a Johannesburg mare. Johannesburg, of course, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner back in 2001. This is another one that had hit the board in every start except the last one, ran 4th in the Oaklawn Stakes last time out. In April. 3rd start off the layoff here for trainer Steve Asmussen with Ricardo Santana Jr. riding. Santana has ridden this horse twice previously was second at Churchill Downs last June, and then broke the maiden with this one in Saratoga in July. And my fourth choice in this spot is going to be number 8, Anno d'Or, who was the runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last November at Santa Anita, then ran second in the Los Alamitos Futurity behind 1,000 Words, another very highly respected horse. Didn't run a lick in the Risen Star last time out at the fairgrounds in February, but got hammered at the start. Never really had a good trip in that race at all. Had to expend all kinds of energy. So I think that race is a toss. Look at the breeding of this colt. By Medaglia d'Oro out of a Tappet mare. That's about as good as you can get at this point. They're taking the blinkers off. They put blinkers on for the Risen Star last time out. Was the first time the horse had ever had the shades on. Now take them off. So I have it 4, 1, 11, 8 in race 11 tomorrow at Oaklawn Park.
Okay, well, you have it, I guess, the same 4 horses. We haven't compared notes, by the way, folks. I don't know what 4 picks are in each race, but I am going to back in only to use this one in pick 3s or maybe some rolling doubles with a price that we'll talk about in the Oaklawn Handicap. But I am going to go with Charlatan. I know you're not going to get a price here. But you know what makes this a little stronger? As you were doing your analysis there, in this race, if you look at Brisnet, you and I use these Brisnet sheets, and E-Horse is a horse who wants to have the lead and wants to be running up front, right? Well, there was only 2 of those in this race, and one of them, number 6, Shooter Shoot, has scratched. So I think that makes the job for Charlatan even easier. And if you're a speed horse, you want to be on the rail. The thing is, you got to break, of course, obviously. Martin Garcia has the confidence of Bob Baffert. We mentioned he's won the Arkansas Derby twice in 2012 and 2015. The blinkers came off last time. It's the second time with the blinkers off. It doesn't matter. This horse just has a high speed, high cruising. And by Speightstown, a little bit worried about that. But if he breaks, if he's got a 101 and a 105 in 2 races, Brisnet speed figures, and, I know, okay, I'm a homer, I'm a chalk eater here. I'm just going to take the 1. Okay, my second pick is your top pick, Governor Morris. Todd Pletcher, we mentioned he's won 3 of the last 7 and 4 Arkansas Derbies in the 2000s. He won in 13, 14, 18. Way back in 01, he won the race with Balto Star. Remember that horse?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
he was actually the hot horse that Derby week.
Yeah,
Remember, he was the horse that was the talk of the backside that year, and he ended up running up the track after they went so fast up front in that Derby with Song and a Prayer going under 45 seconds, because Balto Star was right there with him, and then they just backtracked right out of it when Monarcos came running.
Yeah, the wise guy horses in the Derby don't always come through, but he was the hot talk horse. But he gets Johnny Velasquez up. It's his 3rd start off a layoff, which is a good point here. You mentioned that last race and in the Florida Derby, and he shifted out. He was 5 wide. He ran behind Tiz the Law. It was probably, if not the favorite right now for the Kentucky Derby, so I don't fault him much for that. He had a 102 late pace number at Tampa Bay, 2 back, so he can motor down the lane. And I think if the 1 falters, you're right, your horse may be right there on top. I've got did you Door? Yeah, I know
yes,
Door.
Anno d'Or was my 4th pick, yes.
Okay, yeah. It's got 2 ends, Anodor, right. Anyway, I don't know this trainer well, but this horse added blinkers last time, had a horrific start, as you mentioned. They take the blinkers off. I think that was a 1-race experiment. It's done. The horse did go a mile and a 16, 3 back with a 102 Brisnet speed index. He ran second. He was beaten ahead in there, but still at Santa Anita, I think that's a good number there. That was in a Breeders' Cup race, obviously, in the juvenile, so he just missed that one. Don't know the jockey all that well, Juan Hernandez, but he's got a very good number for this barn. So I've got the 8 in there 3rd. Then I'm going to go with the 11 Basin for 4th. He wasn't my original 4th place pick, but we did have a scratch of the 6 horse in there. Ran in the hopeful 3 back and won that easily. His last 3 races, interestingly enough, all on the slop. And I was going to ask you, I didn't look at it before we recorded this video, but do you have the weather forecast for tomorrow in Arkansas?
I do not. I don't. I'm telling you, it's supposed to be nice here in Louisiana the whole weekend. So yeah. I'm guessing if it's going to be nice here, it should be nice there. So it's that's some amateur meteorologist there, but we'll see.
Well, one thing about him, and I look at a lot of these pace numbers, early, middle, and late for Brisnet, his middle pace numbers in 4 straight races, and again, 3 of those are on the slop, which tend to be in 100, 101, 103, 109. And the last 2 races he's been in, he's been stalking the pace, wasn't able to finish, but those were fast-paced races. And from the outside, with that type of early and middle pace, I expect him to stalk the pace up the backstretch, maybe be 2, 3, or 4 wide, but within striking distance here. He may be chasing the one Charlatan, but he's definitely going to be in a prime position if he's good enough going into the far turn to at least make his presence felt down the stretch. We're going to put Basin in there for Steve Asmussen with Ricardo Santana Jr. So my picks in there are 1, 4, 8, and 11. So we have the same 4, just in a different order. Now, let's go to a very interesting 12th race. I say interesting because it's the Oaklawn Handicap, Grade 2, 600,000 in the purse. They're going to go 1 mile and an eighth. All 3 of these races at 1 mile and an eighth, but obviously this one for older horses. And I went with a bit of a long shot bomb in here, and I think, did you do that same?
I've got a price horse in here myself. We'll let you go first this time since I've got to lead off the first race. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Okay, I went with the 11 Tax at 15 to 1. So if I'm going to go chalk in the first race and maybe chalk in the first race, we'll try to get a price here. Although I don't know that you'll on this horse. Do you? I'm not sure you will. You and I both like this horse a little bit, I think.
But I have Tax in my mix as well. I at 15 to 1 could be a little high on him. I think that price might come down tomorrow.
Yeah, and the trainer, again, I don't know him all that well, but 38% wins this year. Kendrick Carmouche.
Danny Gargan. He is a New York trainer who actually was one of the jockeys in the 1973 Belmont Stakes.
Wow, cool.
Yes. So I actually have
very far away.
Secretariat from very far away. That's right. I actually have a DVD that was sent to me by a fan years ago of the CBS broadcast of that race. And they interviewed each of the 5 jockeys as they were coming out of getting weighed, and they came in. And Chick Anderson is standing there with the microphone talking to all these jockeys, and Danny Gargan was one of the 5 of them. So I've always kept that in the back of my head. And when I saw Gargan with this horse at the Derby last year, I thought about that. And now we both like this horse in here. I'm glad you brought him up, because certainly worth mentioning that he was in maybe the greatest race of all time, just on the wrong horse.
Well, just need to be part of it,
Yeah.
But this last year, as a 3-year-old, hooked some of the best horses in the country, ran in the Kentucky Derby, finished 15th, moved to 14th. We know what happened with the winner of that race. Ran in the Belmont 4th, won the Jim Dandy. He hasn't won since then, but only 3 starts since. Only 1 start this year in January, which concerns me a little bit. But his record at the distance of 5 out of 6 on the board. He stumbled last time out, so I would throw out the race in January. The trainer's numbers are excellent. I was going to mention Kendrick Carmouche, the son of Sylvester Carmouche, which has infamous ties to Louisiana. But anyway, Kendrick's a very, very talented rider, and he doesn't often get the press as some of the other guys do. So I like him in the saddle here. This horse has a style that should put him just off the pace. He's starting near an outside post, so if he get over 2, 3, 4 path, I think he'll get a great trip. Long shot winner there. So I'm going to go with 11 on top, Tax. I've got the 4 in here second, Mr. Freeze. No way. I think this horse goes off at 6 to 1. I think that line is way too high on that horse. Dale Roman trains. Joe Talamo has had a good move to Arkansas from Southern California. He's made a great season there. This horse on the board in 4 out of 5 at the distance, comes off 2 straight 106. Brisnet Speed Index is the last one to win in the Gulfstream Park Mile in a Grade 2. He's gone 1 mile and an eighth on numerous occasions, although if you look at the 3 races before the last, all at 1 mile and an eighth, none of those were wins. So that's a bit concerning there. He does have a style that puts him on or near the lead by To Honor and Serve out of a Tabasco Cat mare. Mr. Freeze, my second pick. My third pick in this one is going to be all the way on the outside, Improbable. Bob Baffert trainee. Bad draw. 14 posts, not good. If he was in farther, may have used him higher. Martin Garcia will be in the saddle. Finished second last time out on a wet track. That was at Oaklawn, so he does have a start over the track, albeit not on a fast track, which I'm hoping it'll be fast tomorrow. But again, look at all those Grade 1s he's been in before that. The last win for him, though, was a $100,000 non-graded race at Del Mar. Look who he ran 2 back in the Breeders' Cup Mile to Spun to Run. He was a monster that day. Going to have to go a little bit farther, but I think Baffert might bring this one into the top 3. And my 4th pick in here is number 7, and that is Combatant for John Joel Rosario will be in the saddle. Comes off a win, has won 2 of his last 3. I love late pace numbers on Brisnet. His last 2 are 120, 2 back at Santa Anita, San Pasqual, and then last time out 108 in the Santa Anita Handicap where he won that race. So he's 4-1 morning line. I may not have him high enough, but I'm going to stick him in there. He's by Scat Daddy out of a boundary mare. So this is a very tough race. How did you see it, Michael?
Well, I have 3 of the same 4 horses that you have. The one I actually don't have that you have is Improbable. I don't have Improbable anywhere on my top 4. Okay. My top pick is number 12, By My Standards.
Oh, yeah.
And what is his morning line, Don? You have the odds in front of you, I believe.
9-2.
Say again? 9-2. All right, so By My Standards is my top pick for trainer Brett Calhoun by Golden Sense out of a Mukhtarib mare. Kentucky Bred has won 4 of the last 5 starts. All of them coming at the fairgrounds. The one he missed the money in was the Kentucky Derby, where he ran 12th in that race, but got squeezed at the start, hammered, never, in that Derby field, which is so bulky and contentious, it's easy to have that happen. But other than that, this horse has been in the money 7 of 8 times. Third start off the layoff here. So By My Standards, who was a winner in a Grade 2 in the New Orleans Classic last time out at the fairgrounds, is my top selection. Second pick is the 7 Combatant, who you discussed, Don, having won 2 of the last 3, including the Big Cap out at Santa Anita in March. Joel Rosario riding by Scat Daddy out of a boundary mare. Scat Daddy, of course, a very influential sire the last several years. And this one's last work at Santa Anita, 5 furlongs in 59-1 in late April here. So, again, a horse that I think is peaking at the right time for trainer John Sadler. Now, your top pick, number 11, Tax, is my third pick. I love this as a long shot in here, and I'm glad you went ahead and put it on top because I think this one has got a big shot in this race. Doesn't necessarily have to be forwardly placed, so could settle in there, mid-pack or right behind the leaders and make that run that he is used to making toward the tail ends of these races. Will be his first time out ever at Oaklawn Park, so that is something to keep an eye on. And I do have Tax in the third spot, and my fourth pick is the 4, Mr. Freeze, and I'm with you on that. I don't think you get anywhere near 6-1 on this horse. I think this horse probably goes off closer to 3-1, 7-2, somewhere in there. Has hit the board in each of the last 6. 2 wins, 3 seconds, and a third. And that win last time out in the Gulfstream Mile in February was most impressive, just drawing away as the betting favorite with Joe Talamo riding for Dale Roman. So my top 4 in the 12, 7, 11, 4.
Okay, so that covers 2 out of the 3 races. So we move on to the lucky 13th, if you will, here. And this is the second division of Derby, Grade 1, 500,000, 3-year-olds at a mile and an 8. And you said, give us the scratching here, Michael.
There are 2 scratches again in this race, down to a field of 9 with the 2 Saratogian out and the 8 Fast Enough, both withdrawn. So it's a field of 9 going a mile and an 8 in the second division of the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby.
With full Kentucky Derby points. Okay. All right. We'll go back to you. Give us your picks, Michael.
My top choice in here is the horse on the outside. It's number 11, Wells Bayou, for trainer Brad Cox. Florent Giroux will have the ride. Giroux has ridden this horse 3 previous times, including the victory last time out in the Louisiana Derby. Got hit at the break, but still was able to achieve the lead from an inside post position. This is a horse that is going to be needing the lead, going to have to try to get out of that gate quickly, looking to the inside of him. As far as speed horses go, I think King Guillermo could go, Nadal could go, but really that could be it. So, I mean, if those 3 are the only 3 that really make any move for the front at the start of the race, the worst he'll be is 3 wide, potentially 4 wide getting to that turn. I don't think that's going to be necessarily the worst position in the world. Certainly has a liking for the track at Oaklawn with a win and a second in 2 previous starts, the second coming in the Grade 3 Southwest, running behind Silver Prospector in that race. A very well-bred colt by Looking at Lucky, who was a Preakness winner out of a hard-spun mare. And I don't know how many times I got to tell you, Don, I love those horses that have hard-spun in the lineage. So I got this one in the top spot, number 11, Wells Bayou. Second pick is the 5, Nadal, for Bob Baffert by Blame out of a Pulpit mare. 3 for 3, having broken the maiden at Santa Anita back in January, and then wins in 2 Grade 2s, the San Vicente at Santa Anita in February, and the Rebel in March. And, this is another horse like Justify that didn't start as a 2-year-old for Bob Baffert. Does that, now, since Justify broke that long stretch with a horse not starting as a 2-year-old, then winning the Kentucky Derby, since we're going to September, does that even apply here? Is that extra 4-month time?
I don't think it does.
So I got Nadal in the second spot as my second choice. My third choice in here is number 10, Farmington Road, for Todd Pletcher by Quality Road out of a Langfure mare. Javier Castellano will ride, and this is a deep closer.
Yeah.
If you look at that last race in the Oaklawn Stakes, was 13th in a big field, and ended up rolling all the way up to get second and just missed by a half length. The race before that was 10th. And in both of those races, you'll note, had an outside post position. Was in the 12 hole in the last race and the 10 hole in the race before that. So the draw isn't going to hurt, and this horse is going to come running late and might just fly past everybody to get up there and get the big chunk of it. But I got this one in third. And then the 4, King Guillermo, rounds out my top 4 by Uncle Mo, winner of 2 of the last 3, including the Tampa Bay Derby at Tampa Bay Downs last time out. So in the second division of the Arkansas Derby, I like it 11, 5, 10, 4.
Okay, a lot of the same horse thing. I think we only differ on one horse, and we have a different on top. And yeah, I'm going to be a chalk eater here. I'm going to go with Nadal on top. Again, it's Bob Baffert in here. Horse is 3 for 3, as you mentioned. Took the last time and responded well, fought off a challenge in the stretch, or held on, I should say, by 3/4 of a length. Is bred to go long. The high sales price horse in the field, $700,000 by Blame out of a Pulpit mare. I think you mentioned that. Joel Rosario riding here. His middle pace numbers, what I like, 105, 105 in the last 2. It puts him cruising right up near the lead or on the lead. He's always been close. And so I kind of went with that one. My second pick in here was a 10-1 long shot, Silver Prospector. I went back and looked at his last race. He was coming off a win at Oaklawn February 17th in the Southwest, so he got touted last time out, and he lost by 12 to Nadal, but he had trouble around the far turn. The jockey in there, Santana, wanted to move him out. A horse moved in front of him. He had to kind of steady, and he was getting momentum. He was gaining momentum from the back, had to duck him back down in, went to the inside, then came outside in the stretch a little bit. He just had a lot to do. Now, he wasn't going to catch Nadal in that race, but the traffic problem, I don't think he's going to make up 12 lengths is what I'm saying. I was teasing with this horse as a long shot, but I didn't think he could make up 12 lengths on that winner. Steve Asmussen, Ricardo Santana Jr., going to be second. He's bred to run all day, so it shouldn't be a problem. Has tons of experience with 9 career races. And I just think he's going to run a super. I don't think Asmussen sees this one run 2 bad races in a row. So I think Silver Prospector is going to be an exactor to try. And I actually had your top pick in my picks, and I took it out. So I hope I don't live to regret Will's buying you. King Guillermo, the 4 horse in my third spot. Juan Avila and Sammy Camacho team up here. 2 wins in 4 starts. One of those was on the turf. The last one was a romp in the Tampa Bay Derby at 49-1. Now, you look at that and you go, where did that race come from? Because the fans did not have their eye on this horse. He didn't have a dirt win. It was his first start, and he went from a 90 Brisnet speed figure to a 102. But sometimes horses improve and they grow and they do things over the winter when they turn 3. And who knows, maybe he did get this good. I just don't see him repeating that performance. He had a 107 late pace number. That was in March. I think he's good enough to crack in there in the top 3. But, again, that big improvement always scares me. And one thing I look at in the Kentucky Derby itself, when a horse increases their Brisnet speed figure by 10 points or more, I almost throw them out of the top spot. That's too much in their last 2 races. That's like too much improvement in one spot to go on.
That's a bounce candidate for sure. Boing, boing, boing. Absolutely.
And he improved 12 here, so I'm thinking we're going to get a little regression. But again, he may have just filled out as a 3-year-old and done real well. Now, the other one, Farmington Road, and I was interested by this horse because I believe in here, if I look at my notes right, there are 6 E-type horses in this race, which are horses who want the lead. Well, this is that deep closer you talked about. What's interesting with him is in his 5th career start last time out, he added blinkers. And that was the farthest behind he ever was, 17 lengths out of it early. Normally, you add blinkers, you expect more speed. He was farther back, but I think it was a product of the pace. Look at the first call, second call Brisnet pace stats. plus 26 for the first call, plus 16 for the second. You can see they went 45-2, 110-4 for the half and 3/4, and that's flying. Now there's a bunch of horses in. This is a Todd Pletcher trainee. Javier Castellano rides. And again, if he can work out a trip, I think there's going to be horses backing up in the lane here, and he's going to pick up a minor award, and he's probably going to be the one that opens your eyes down the lane because he's going to be flying down the stretch. So I've got him in there fourth, but I teased to put him in higher. And Wells Bayou, the only reason I didn't use him because the outside post and the speed and all the speed in the race, and that's what got him down for me. And his late pace numbers are best or low 90s. So I just think he's going to use a lot of energy early. He's going to be outside. He may get a wide trip, and that's why I brought him down. But that's what this game is all about. It's about opinion, yours, mine, and everybody else's.
That's
betting.
right.
Since the race going away, I'm going to tip my hat to you, Michael, and say you were smarter than me. But that's my reasoning, and you got to have a plan. You got to stick to it. So I'm going to go 5, 7, 4, and 10 in the second Arkansas Derby, running divisions for the first time this year. So there you go. We'll put those numbers up so everybody can see that. Let's quickly touch on the race coming up tomorrow. Right. 13 Triple Crown winners going at it. So what's your opinion, Michael?
Now, let's look at it this way. We all think Secretariat's going to win. Oh, okay, let's just go ahead and do it. Well, take Secretary out of the equation.
Out there. There's a few citation fans.
So assuming Secretariat is, who's the other horse that you think has a shot in there as maybe a little bit of a long shot or a surprise? Which of the other 12 Triple Crown winners is the one you think could possibly be a stunner?
No, I mean, I mentioned Citation. He was just an incredible horse if you go back and read books about him. I think Affirmed was so gutsy. You know, look at the way he won the Belmont, fighting off every charge down the lane, Affirmed and Alidar. So I think he could be tenacious down the stretch. I guess I'm not reading too much into the two recent Triple Crown winners. Are you?
No, I think that I tend to lean more towards the older horses just because of the way the game has changed and the way that the breeding is. In the old days, they were bred for stamina. We mentioned Gallon Fox 4 days before the Derby winning the Preakness. I mean, no way that ever happens today. Right. They don't even take the horse out of the barn 4 days, outside of winning a race. So, I think that if you, I lean, and the horse I like as a little bit of a long shot or a little bit of a horse that I think could make a mark tomorrow is Whirlaway. Whirlaway, it was crazy. I mean, the horse would break out of the gate, bolt to the outside fence, and still win by 6. So the famous story of Eddie Arcaro and the trainer being in the paddock at Churchill Downs, and they cut the blinker out so he couldn't see outside; he could only see inside. And so, it's a great story and one of my favorite historical horses. We did that thing. This if you could pick any 3 horses in the past that you could have. And I took Kelso, Dust Commander, and Empire Maker. Whirlaway was just off that list. And the only reason I took Kelso was because he is a horse that I think gets forgotten when you talk about the great horses of all time.
Wasn't he Horse of the Year 4 years in a row?
Yes. He, in the early 60s, he was the horse of the decade in that early part of the 1960s. And I just think he gets so overlooked nowadays that when you have the opportunity and a fun thing like that, you can always bring up a horse from way back. I bring up Kelso because he just doesn't seem to get the same kind of mention as a Secretariat, as a Citation. And again, he did all of this as an older horse. He wasn't a horse that ran in the Triple Crown races, and he was more of a handicap horse. But there's nothing to take away from the greatness of Kelso. And the question was if you could own any 3 horses from the I'll take the horse that won Horse of the Year 4 years in a row. I'm sorry, that's just me.
You know what? I almost, when that came up on Twitter, I almost listed Giacomo, Mind That Bird, and Archon, just because so obviously they're not the ones I'd want to own, but you never know. I mean, if you had money on them, you would have got rich. But anyway.
Hey, absolutely.
So, and as track announcers, you were telling me Larry Comas is going to call that fantasy race, right?
Yes, there's actually 2 versions of the Fantasy Derby tomorrow, one on the Horse Racing Radio Network and the other one as part of the NBC Sports broadcast, which will be tomorrow afternoon. They're also going to replay American Pharaoh's Triple Crown victory during that show. So maybe Pharaoh does run a little better than we all expect, because they're going to give him a little build-up before the Fantasy Derby, maybe.
Well, I mean, not that things are rigged, but it is a fantasy race. And somebody online the other day said, Justify or American Pharaoh are going to be in the top 3 because they have to get some recent flair in there. So I don't know.
If they do that, I get it. You're trying to keep the audience entertained, but you show these old great. If you have older horses, in these races like this, the horses that won the Triple Crown throughout history, you educate the fans about these great horses in the past. Yeah. You show them what these horses were capable of back in the day, and it to me that adds to the experience. And I mean, I'm a history buff. So, but that's just, maybe that's just me, but I'm hoping for a big run from Whirl Away tomorrow, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then the horse racing has so much history and nostalgia. That's something that gets lost sometimes, and we do need to have new fans. Bob Baffert wins with Charlatan and Nadal, and then American Pharaoh pulls an upset in this fantasy race. He could have a heck of a day, but he's probably going to wonder where his purse money is from the fantasy derby, huh?
That's right. He could go 3 for 3 tomorrow and not get anything out of one of it.
I read this the other day. Did you see this online where they asked him about California racing and the state it was in, and asked him if he would move his operation to another part of the country? And he said, I think I would rather retire because I can't imagine not being in California. Did you see that quote?
I didn't see that, but I know there are rumblings that Santa Anita might try to get going sometime this month. I guess they put out a condition book. So maybe California comes back a little bit for the summer coming up here soon. And that's a good thing. And, hopefully we'll see some racing in New York, Belmont Park before too long again. I don't necessarily know if we're going to Saratoga this year. I don't think that's going to be a possibility. But, it's any racing we can get at this point, and especially any racing of a high quality, is a good thing.
It sure is. Well, Michael, thank you for your time today. Hopefully we don't, do terrible in these picks. We just
I know we want people to come back when we make these picks. So we better win something tomorrow.
Yeah. So we'll try to do our very best. Hopefully you cash some tickets. We wish everybody good luck this, not only Saturday, but the whole weekend, as they're watching racing via simulcast with no fans at the track. We want everybody to be safe, be at home, wash your hands, wear your mask, do all the stuff you're supposed to do. And let's get back to normal sometime soon. Huh, Michael?
Amen. I completely agree with that one, Don.
For joining us today. We'll see you the next time on the HorseManDon channel. Make sure to subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, please. It really helps with the algorithm with HorseManDon channel. We get more views that way. Hey, I'm only, I think, 29 or 30 subscribers away from 2,000, Michael. So let's get over the hump, okay?
That's right. And this has actually helped bump up my Twitter followers. I'm into the 520s now. So
all right.
I'm closing in on 550 soon.
That's good. I just checked my Twitter account, and of course, I've been bribing people lately, but I'm only 65,000. So let's get over the 5,000 mark. Let's get you to 600, okay?
You got it.
All right. Have a great day, Michael. Good luck, and we'll see everybody next time here on the HorseManDon channel.
Good luck, everyone.